Welcome back, darkness lovers, night sky gazers, and all you people that are out there that are part of the movement. We got great news for you today. The National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, the members of that association, have created a new 501c3 corporation, the Lighting in Darkness Foundation. And the Lighting in Darkness Foundation is an institution that has been created from the grassroots of the lighting industry. And what we want to do is we want to create the capability and the ability in the field to restore darkness to our light polluted environments, to preserve night where it exists. So what I want you to do right now, I know it sounds crazy, I've never done anything like this before, but I want you to go to restoringdarkness.com. I want you to click the donate button. And I want you to get involved in this movement financially. That's right, make a contribution to the Lighting in Darkness Foundation. What are we going to do? We're going to do a lot of things. We're going to create education. Okay? We're going to fund research. We are going to support initiatives on the ground that are looking to stop light pollution before it starts, preserve night, and we're going to look at it helping people restore darkness to our light polluted environments. So go to restoringdarkness.com right now. Check it out. Click the donate button right there at the top, and it would allow you to make a contribution to this movement that we all care about so much. So that's restoringdarkness.com. Now, ahead, we have a great show for you guys today. We have Kimberly Arcond, Jill Johnson, and Stephen Loring from the Smithsonian. That's right, Smithsonian Institute. And we're talking about their latest exhibit, which is called so beautifully, Lights Out, Recovering Our Night Sky. And it makes the case for darkness restoration and night preservation, which is what we're trying to do right here on this show, and which is why I'm so excited to get down to Washington, D.C. and check out the display myself, and we're going to go there for sure. But we have something for you right now. The first person to sign up as a monthly donor to the Lighting in Darkness Foundation for $50 a month will receive an all-expenses paid trip with the host of the Lighting in Darkness Foundation, Restoring Darkness podcast, host Michael Colligan, to come with us and check out the exhibit. So go ahead right now. Go to that donate button right now. Click donate and become a monthly subscriber. I mean, I can't think of anything personally better to give to than this cause. It touches everything, folks. If you're into wildlife, if you're into spirituality, if you're into carbon emissions and carbon mitigation, energy efficiency, beauty, the list just goes on and on and on and on. Folks, light pollution is pollution. It's not a metaphor. And so this foundation exists to stop the increase of light pollution and to begin to reduce it. That's right. We're gonna solve the problem. We're not going to mitigate it. We're going to fix it. So go to restoringdarkness.com right now. Click the donate button. And, hey, buy us a cup of coffee. A day, a week, a month, whatever it is that you can give to us. We really appreciate it. And we're going to put it to great work. But, so before I get to the great folks at the Smithsonian, which is going to be an incredible show, I want to tell you guys about the Darkness News. That's right. Every week on this show, we're going to have the Darkness News Report with Scott Wachter. And we're going to go through all the things that are going on in the world, all the different issues. We're going to discuss them. So without further ado, I give you Scott Wachter of the Darkness News Report. Scott Wachter, what's going on in the news with darkness these days?
Well, I've grabbed a few things from the last 3 weeks just to get us started with something big, but we'll start with the big one, which is that the International Dark Sky Association has changed their name and their logo. It's just Dark Sky, one word, intercaps right now. And I was going through the archives and I realized that Texas actually spilled the beans. Like the Texas branch of the IDA spilled the beans about 2-3 months ahead of this announcement by already changing their letterhead to just Dark Sky Texas. And I think at the time I wrote it off as, Texas being Texas about it.
Sure. Well, you know what? We love the work they do down there at Dark Skies International. Is that the new name, Dark Skies International or Dark Sky International?
That Dark Sky International is their government name. That's how they file their taxes, but
Hmm.
it's just Dark Sky. One word.
One word, Dark Sky. Okay, we love the
Yeah.
work they do. Good luck with the name change, and yeah, what else you got, Scotty? That's big news, though. I
Uh,
mean, that's big news. They're the leader in this movement, so we're looking at them for big stuff in the future.
well, speaking of, they've also just certified the first dark sky site in Greece. This is on Mount Ainos. It's on the island of Kefalonia in the Ionian Sea. This is the smallest national park in Greece, and the island is the sixth smallest island in the archipelago.
And it's now been declared a dark sky reserve.
Dark Sky Park Reserve is like one rank up.
One rank up. Well, hey, they could go down the Greeks. Let's go. What else you got?
All right, so Axios has put together a little bit of data visualization for us, which is, this will come up in the video edit. But if you're listening to the audio version, what we have here is a map of the United States, including Hawaii and Alaska, and it is color coded from white to very very dark purple based on how far you have to drive to a area that is known to be at a Bortle scale rank 1 or 2.
Hmm.
So you can see here that New Jersey, Connecticut, and Rhode Island all have to drive about 200 miles to see stars,
Mm.
whereas Maine, Utah, and Hawaii are already living in it.
Mm. Isn't that interesting that you can, a light pollution map, creating a light pollution map, reminding people that, hey, there's a whole universe up there. And you might want to get in your car every now and then and contemplate it. I think that's wonderful. Who put that together?
So this is a publication called Axios. They do a bunch of different news related content on the web.
Beautiful.
All right. Speaking of light pollution, we're going over to Bosha. That's an observatory, the oldest observatory in Indonesia. It's probably going to have to shut down due to light pollution from the nearby city of Lembang. So they've already built a new observatory about 1,800 kilometers away, but they're really hoping that the city can get its stuff together and start a sky glow reduction campaign and keep this historic building up and running
When
for
it was
its intended purpose.
When was it built?
1921.
1921 has
This is a
been
102-year-old observatory.
102-year-old
Yeah.
observatory is about to become awash in light pollution. I mean, that's a tragedy, and we can fix it. And I think that, I think the people there and along with the technology we have today can solve that problem. So let's get after it. What else you got, Scotty?
The Tibetan Plateau,
Mhm.
at the third pole,
Sure.
but incredibly biodiverse region. The Chinese Academy of Sciences has tracked that since 1991, light pollution in the region has more than tripled.
Hmm. And um, simply because of development. That's bad
Just
development.
urbanization of the region. That's it. Bad development.
I mean, I think that's the case everywhere. When they talk about light pollution going up at 10% a year, you're talking about, the ability for LEDs to produce way more light with much less electricity, and so people use more light in these remote areas, and that's something we have to address. Foundation has to get to that.
Yeah, I mean, this is something we all have to build. But
Mhm.
looking at somewhere a little closer, so Mike, you might remember Leamington, Ontario.
Sure.
The cannabis greenhouse, big old purple haze bomb. So ever since Leamington has passed their lighting bylaw requiring that greenhouse to have curtains, we're seeing every town in southern Ontario look at their lighting bylaws and seeing if they've got one, seeing what they can do. I'm going to bring you two stories. Caledon, Ontario is in the process of addressing a light pollution bylaw. This is a general sky glow mitigation measure. One member of City Council has pushed it out, and Public Works and the Legal Committee are working on drafting something right now. On the other side, Brantford, Ontario has a new nuisance lighting bylaw. If you complain to your neighbors about your neighbor's lighting to the city, that neighbor will have to buy a shield for any fixture that is shining onto your property.
I prefer the anonymous letter personally than getting the
I mean, there is that.
than getting the government involved. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do this without, getting people in trouble or finding out who everyone is and all that. And we can do that with polite, positive anonymous letters to our neighbors where we say, hey, look, your light is really bright. It shines into my house. Do you mind dimming it, turning it off, or changing it? And it's very effective to do that, folks. But you know what? I think we need to emphasize the incremental nature of this movement, Scott. So you brought up a bunch of examples there where one city decided to do this and then someone else decided to capitalize on that and go to the next place. That's where we need to go with this thing, Scott Wachter. It has to be incremental. This idea of transformational change. Well, transformational change is 30 years in the making with this movement. So we have to begin to restore darkness, shielding those greenhouses, not shutting down the greenhouse. By all means, let's have the nice tomatoes or food or cannabis, whatever they're growing in that thing. But let's shield it. Let's begin restoring darkness. Great work. What else you got?
All right, so there's a proposed nickel and copper mine in the Upper Peninsula of Minnesota that would threaten the darkness around the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. So that's a state wilderness, canoeing, fishing, real great space, I've been told. But the entire state the state government is now reviewing light and noise pollution rules for that construction, for mines in general throughout the state.
And is that going to lead to a reduction in light pollution from this mine?
Well, that's what people are hoping for. We'll see we'll see. Again, this is a rule we have to keep an eye on. It's just the process is just starting.
But as we watch this is where the Lighting in Darkness Foundation is going to come in. We're going to try to intervene in these debates. We're going to try to insert knowledge into these debates. So that's exactly what's needed right now is people where we can get boots on the ground that know what they're talking about, that aren't looking to say, hey, we're not telling anybody you can't have a mine here. That's not what we're not interested in any of that. But what we want to do is say, hey, there's a better way to do lighting, and we have lighting controls and fixtures and all these other things that we can do, and you can do it smart, and you can do it from the beginning, right off the top, before you even build, and that way you're already there. And so that's where I think the foundation comes in, Scott. That's exactly what we're going to do is help those people there in that town or in that area, and the little bugs and bats and everything else that lives in that area.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, fireflies need some love too.
Yeah.
Texas, the Commission on Environment Quality, is going to be strengthening environmental regulations near concrete plants. This is after a new plant got built in Gunter, Texas, that's a little outside Dallas, and they're looking at not just the sound from these plants, the dust, but also light pollution regs coming out of these plants right now. And the entire state, what's going to happen, we're going to see a change in how concrete is made in Texas.
Well, I mean, if we can preserve night and restore darkness to those areas, I don't think it changes the concrete one bit. And that would be my point with this movement. I mean, it's guys, this is not complicated. It's not. This is not a no concrete argument. What this is that we're talking about light pollution and abating it. And so get on board. Don't fight it. Concrete plants out there, don't fight this. Let's get on board. This is beautiful. I mean, and we all need concrete. We all need cement. We drive on roads. We build houses. We got sidewalks we walk on. We need the concrete. But we need you, concrete makers. We need you guys to reduce your light pollution.
All right. Speaking of concrete, let's talk about the Arizona border. So there's about 50 miles spread across 5 different spots already controlled by the state. Some of these are wildlife preserves. Some of these are a monument. But what these are is an area of the Arizona-Sonora border that will be home to 802 what they're calling stadium-style lights. And if these turn on, a report has determined that this would be devastating to wildlife in those regions. Again, this is a state wildlife preserve with stadium-style big honking bright lights pointed into Mexico.
And what's the goal of the lighting? What's it supposed to do?
Oh, I think it's just. I mean, it's a deterrent to any sort of goings on along the border.
And
whether that be people or I guess pumas, deer, antelope.
Yeah.
Monarch butterflies.
What I would say is that sometimes these human priorities that we have, we have to step back from them and realize that. Do you really want to have a line from space that outlines the United States and Canada, with light on our borders? Is that necessary? Does that actually, mitigate or reduce the things that you're trying to stop from happening? And then what is the damage? And I think that People in the past have not considered light pollution pollution. In this case, it is. And I think we need to look at it and decide whether we want to have prison yards along the border of the United States, prison yard lighting along the borders of the United States and Canada, outlining everything from space so people can see these sort of stuff. I think it's ridiculous. It needs to be looked at, needs to be reconsidered. What the purpose of the light is.
All right, we're going to jump. Well, speaking of the purpose of lighting, we're going to jump over to Southwest Florida. We got 4 counties: Sarasota, Manatee, Pinellas, and Collier County. And people that own seaside property there have access to free new lighting. Nice amber fixtures for sea turtle nesting and hatching season.
Everyone loves the
put together
turtles.
by Gotta love the turtles. This is put together by the Sea Turtle Conservancy and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation.
Hmm. And so the towns are actually giving away the dark sky fixtures that people would need to help contribute to this.
Yeah. Any project under 25K, you fill out a form and you can get your amber lamps, you can get shielded fixtures, you can get what you need to respect the turtles and the seashore.
Is that our first example that you've seen in the news of an incentive program to restore darkness and preserve night?
Uh, Recently, yeah. I mean, obviously, we have tons of awareness building campaigns during migration season for birds, but this program's been going on a few years now, but this is really the big one where we have Floridians having access to, the lighting that really respects the needs of the wee baby turtles.
I'd love to interview somebody on the Restoring Darkness show here about that, how they did
Yeah.
that, what fixtures they chose, what's available to the people on the end, because I think incentives play a big part in this. There's the carrot, and there's the stick. And so sometimes we need to say to people, look at, you need to turn your lights off. Why? Because I'm a bylaw officer for the town of whatever. And there's your thing. You need to get that turned off, or you need to change that light to be shielded. And there's the incentive, which is where, hey, you know what? These use a lot less energy, and they produce lower Kelvin temperature lighting, and it has a timer on it or something like that, whatever it is, and it allows for other living things to coexist with us in peace. I mean, it's such a wonderful thing, but I think we need to think about incentive programs a lot. So good on Florida.
All right, so we got a little research from the University of Sussex, which
Mm.
put glowworms in a maze and then subjected them to LED lighting. And what happens is the glowworms can't find each other, which means you cannot get mating. The light distracts them from finding. They use the glow as a mating display. They can't find each other, and we see a population reduction in glowworms.
So we're literally blinding the glowworms in terms of their
Yeah,
ability
you're killing the mood. You're killing the mood.
killing the mood. Hey, dim those lights down, buddy. It's too bright in here. Nobody wants to make love. Ah, man, this issue's the best. It's so awesome. I just
Oh
love
yeah.
talking about this. What else you got in the news there, Scott?
All right, so jumping out, still in the UK, we're going to jump over to the University of Exeter, and they've
Mhm.
found that seaside light pollution is confusing the coastal woodlouse, which is this sort of crustacean that can change color to avoid predators, and the amount of brightness is messing with how they change color, and it's just making them a target for your coastal birds and your larger fish that snatch them up.
What a tragedy. I mean, we think about, when people, talk about don't buy a dog, adopt a dog, or whatever. You have these things out there. You don't want to, go to the local pound. Why are we allowing these? What are they called?
Coastal woodlice.
The coastal woodlice to be picked off like that by the birds. Oh, we don't care about the coastal woodlice. Well, maybe there's a lot of reasons to care about them. And so these are ecosystems. And, how much more beautiful, like you're talking, this is the one problem I have with it. It's like, why do you want to push all your light out onto the ocean and onto the beach and all these different places? Like, isn't that a waste? Do you really need it? And so I really hope that as we restore darkness and the work the foundation is going to do, I really hope we can eliminate that kind of thing. That's something and I want people to want to do it. That's the other thing. Like, can we convince them and persuade them? care about the
Right.
wood lice,
So
Scott
speaking of some,
Walker.
yeah, like speaking about something a lot bigger and a little closer to home, the Quinney College of Natural Resources in Utah has found that mule deer prefer to cross roads at their darkest points, which
Mm.
means they are more likely to be struck blind by headlights and then struck by the car behind those headlights. And we've got a call from the State University of Utah to even up, dim, and shield the highway lighting so that deer can get by on their own.
You know, deer in the headlights. Aren't we all? I mean, if we looked at ourselves personally, all this light pollution, is it affecting us? Like we look at it as always, oh, the mule deer, the sea lice, whatever the heck you were talking about, they change colors. It doesn't affect us. Maybe we're like deer in the headlights now. The fact that all this light pollution, and how does it affect us? Does it have anything to do with the problems in our society? I think it does, and that's why we need to restore darkness.
All right, and now we're going to talk about car collisions among humans. So we've got some
Mm.
great data from the University of Leeds in the UK, and so they've been able to take crash data on the city's highways from before they switched. This is a switch from low pressure sodium to quartz metal halide. So 8 years before, 8 years during, and currently 8 years after under the new lighting, and we found that the brighter bluer lighting you get from the metal halide is not notably changing crash statistics over the
Hmm.
course of this whole thing.
And just for those that are not lighting people listening to this, metal halide is a pre-LED technology, but it produces high color rendering, and it's white color. So it's white in color. So it produces a 4000K or 5000K. I can't remember exactly which one, but it produces a higher whiteness type of light at a very high color rendering index. And low pressure sodium is a very orange colored light that has a very low color rendering index. And so the natural instinct for humans is to believe that, hey, it's whiter light, I can see better. But what we know is true is that axiomatic presupposition is not necessarily true, and more investigation is needed. And this study, where you're literally switching from a orange colored light bulb, and that means pumpkin orange, folks. You're switching from orange color at a color rendering of 22% to a white colored light source at a color rendering of 70 or 80%. So much better when humans look at it to say, I prefer that light source. It doesn't mean that you can see better. Isn't that interesting, Scott Walker? Wow.
And that's the case. And it's interesting to see that happen. And we'll see what happens when Leeds switches all 80,000 of their lamps to LED in 10 years and what that does to those numbers. We'll just have
Well,
to
we
see.
will see. They're going to be if they're metal halide now, or if they haven't been switched already. It's coming. That's for sure.
Yeah. We've also got some findings from the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine and Public Health, finding that pancreatic cancer cells disrupt the circadian clock. So normally when we talk about this, and this will come up in the future, I'm sure, we talk about how circadian disruptions lead to cancer cells forming and growing. And this is actually working the other way around, that you develop pancreatic cancer, it changes your circadian clock, and then that change allows the accelerated growth of those cancer cells.
Isn't that interesting about the liver, eh? So the liver, or the pancreas, which is attached
Pancreas
to your
is
liver,
not a liver.
but it's close to your liver. It's interesting how little we know about how the human being works. That's just humbling, because shouldn't they already know that? No, they don't. They're discovering it now. And so we have these organs in our bodies that are digesting food, and they are affected by the light and the darkness in which we receive, and they create our effect, according to this article. It creates whether or not we're able to handle the day-night cycle. And it seems like pancreatic cancer is a circadian disruptor. That's basically what the article says, right?
Yeah,
Wow, that's incredible.
that's correct.
Wow. And it
All right, well,
accelerates the growth of
speaking of the
tumors.
other, yep,
Circadian disruption caused by the pancreas after it's cancerated or has cancer or whatever actually accelerates the rate of tumor growth. Wow. It's incredible.
and speaking of the inverse, we've got a bunch of neurologists in the UK working with a hospital in Walton to switch their intensive care unit over to a circadian-friendly lighting solution, especially in the recovery rooms, and we are seeing recovery times come down in those rooms.
And what does that mean when they say that? Does it mean bright lights during the day and then warming and dimming at sunset and then darkness and then back? What does it all mean, Scott?
Yeah, so we're talking about a follow the sun sort of solution where you start out pretty dim in the morning on the warmer side. You peak up to very bright, very white to blue light around lunch and after, and that comes right back down towards sunset.
You know what I've noticed about hospitals is they could also, and we've talked about it on this show before, is the sound. There's too much beeping and bopping going on in hospitals, and people are trying to beep boop. I mean, I've had loved ones in the hospital, and I've had to bring them Bose Quiet Comfort headphones so they could actually sleep because there's so much beeping and bopping and bing and bing bom bom bom, and the darkness. Like, listen, the sound and the darkness are almost one and the same. I mean, this is not the Restoring Silence podcast, but it could be, Scott Wachter. And so that tranquility, which is one of our great guests talked about, is restoring tranquility. Yes, please, as soon as possible. I bet you that helps human health, and the health of the wildlife, which is the outdoor light pollution. Give them back their tranquility, Scott Wachter.
Oh, this is an absolute tangent, but there's this Japanese-American woman. She's a musician and a composer, and she spent about a year in a hospital dealing with cancer. And she's actually now partnered with a medical supply company to redesign all of the beeps and boops on one brand, specifically to bring the registers into areas that you can still hear, but are more comfortable for the occupants.
Well, I don't think the beeps and boops are for the patients. So
no,
maybe,
and
yeah,
the nurses. Well, what they're finding is that nurses are distracted by it just as much. That you get an alarm beep and it gets lost in the regular beeps.
Yes, like I couldn't agree more. Like you're sitting there in a room, you're trying to say beep, beep. Your heart rate's being beeped on the side, and there's a light coming out of it, and then there's a light over here shining over here from this machine, and it's very hard to recover. I mean, and so it's light pollution, sound pollution. It's happening in the recovery room. So we got rid of the light pollution, and guess what? People recovered faster. Let's get rid of the sound pollution too. I mean, we're not gonna start the Sound and Silence Foundation right now, but it's almost the same thing, Scott Wachter.
Yeah. Right. Well, that is what we're gonna. That is 3 weeks worth of news. We'll come back next time, I think.
Yes. So, folks, on normal occasions, when Scott Wachter and I get together, it's just going to be the last 7 days. But this time, where it's the first time of the show. But you know what I want you to do right now? This work. Scott Wachter is a professional. He reads all the darkness news all week long. And he prepares a report. And he puts it out on the Lighting Industry News Brief, Darkness News, and he puts it on the website. It's all there for you, folks. You go to restoringdarkness.com, and you can check out the news. You can check out episodes of the show. But you know what else you can do? You can click the donate button. That's right. You can support this great work. We got Scott Griffin in the studio here who spent a lot of time creating all of this. We got Scott Wachter doing all the news. And we got the board of directors that are volunteering their time to... there we go. I just got to move over out of the logo there. I'm new to this, folks, so just give me a bit of time to move around and then a whole new show format. But we're starting a new show, and we're serious about this. We're not taking any prisoners. We are going to work towards this with education, with research, with awareness creation, and with support to our friends on the ground in various communities that need help, that need technical support, maybe even legal support. We don't know yet. We're going to try our best. But you know what it all relies upon? It relies upon you. All those folks out there that are sick of this now. They're sick of the excuses. This is a solvable environmental problem, folks. And we can fix it. So I want you to go to restoringdarkness.com right now. Click that donate button. Why not become a monthly donor? Why not? What else are you giving to? And this issue is something that, is dear to all our hearts. Seeing the stars, restoring darkness, preserving night, helping the wildlife. You heard about all the things that Scott Wachter was talking about in his amazing reporting that he did. 3 weeks of news right there. What a great report Scott put together. The team's here, guys. We're serious about this. So go to restoringdarkness.com, click the donate button right now.